Hello everyone, this is Stephanie. Thank you so much for tuning in. Today I'm coming to you with another Bible journal entry. The entry will be based off Ecclesiastes 3, basically all the way 1 through 8, and then just one part of 11. And I had bought a couple of these dimensional stickers, not this particular style, different ones, and I bought them when they were half off. So this set was $3.99, so I got it for about $2, which is inexpensive, and I thought this was a really fun just set of stickers here. I like the dimension. I'm a sucker for that kind of stuff. So I decided that I would use them for an entry. So I'm going to be using these, and I'm going to be using this stamp set that I bought a while ago from Tuesday Morning, and it's just basically like leafy vine. And I may or may not use this set from Tim Holtz, the cling foam stamps. It has this really fun script. I got it at Hobby Lobby on clearance for $2.74. So I'm thinking maybe I might use this. So far these are the only things that I will be using. Oh, and I will also be using these two distress inks in Lucky Clover and Peacock Feathers. Hopefully this is a nice combination. I'll see how that works out. I should test things out before I just go ahead and Bible journal, but sometimes I get lazy and I get so excited that I just want to go ahead and dive in. So if you want things to be perfect, I would suggest that you would test things out before just going into your Bible. Now I know oxides may or may not bleed, but I'm planning on using them kind of like a watercolor. And so I'll see how that all works out. So I'm going to go ahead and put you on fast forward, and I'll let you know the process.
Alright, so basically what I'm going to start off doing is I'm grabbing a piece of this acetate packaging paper, and I am inking it up with some of the Distress Oxide, and I'm putting some water on it with my watercolor brush, and then I'm just going to be smooshing it towards the top left corner. And then I'm going to grab that same acetate paper and then use the other Distress Oxide color. This is in Peacock Feathers, I believe. And I'm going to smush that right above the previous color. And then to dry it off, I'm just going to use my heat tool just to speed up the process so that I can continue with this entry. And then I am flipping over the page just to make sure that this whole ink smooshing is not bleeding through, and it didn't bleed through, but I was a little bit messy, and so a little bit of it did show through, but not too bad. Next, I'm going to grab this stamp that I showed at the beginning, where it is like a leafy vine, and it looks kind of like a sketchy type of a stamp. So I use that, and before stamping it onto the Bible page, I tested it out on some cardstock paper just to make sure that whatever color I chose was going to look good. So I went with the Peacock Feathers to go on top of the smooshing that I did. So I'm doing first, second, and third generation stamping, and then I'm going back and doing the same thing along the ink smooshing part of this page. And I probably did more than I needed to, but I got a little crazy and carried away with stamping. But at the end, it'll look fine, just because some of these stickers will go ahead and cover that up. So now I cut off the stickers off their backing just so that I can see where I want them before I commit to it. And I don't know if you can see that small sticker towards the bottom corner where my hands are. I actually wanted to use that as my third element, but when I went to see where I wanted everything to be laid out on the page, I just didn't like how it just didn't feel right. Mainly because it was bigger, it was a big piece already, and I already have two chunky pieces, so I wanted something to kind of counter that. And so I went with one of the other elements on the same sticker set, and it's this potted plant. And I didn't want to lay it on the bottom. I kind of wanted to be a part of the pieces that are going to be hanging up at the top. So I decided to grab some twine and kind of make my own potted hanging potted plant. So I grabbed the twine and I'm adding some of this tape runner onto the twine and then sticking it onto the sticker. While it allowed me to kind of figure out how I want this to kind of go. I was kind of playing it by ear. I didn't have a real clear picture of what that would look like. So basically now what I'm doing is I am tying a knot from one of the strings, the third strings that on here, and tying a knot up at the top, and then kind of figuring out where I want the bottom strings to kind of lay where it looks like an actual hanging potted string thing. You know what I'm talking about. So now I'm figuring out that this piece right here is getting covered up and it's making everything look kind of weird and squished together. So I went ahead and cut it off, and then I will later come back with some of my tape runner and stick it to one of the sides. So here I'm just kind of figuring out where do I want it, and then I finally decided I'm going to deal with it later. So I put it off to the side and continue fussing with this twine here, and I'm just figuring out how I want it. So while I'm dealing with all of that, you're just going to see me fuss with it with the strings a little bit to get them straight, and then finally I stick them down with some tacky glue. So here's the tacky glue. And while I'm doing that and sticking everything down, I am going ahead and read you the verse of where I got the inspiration to illustrate these plant things. So the verse is based off of Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verses 1 through 8 and 11. And it says, "There is an occasion for everything, a time for every activity under heaven, a time to give birth and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to uproot, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to tear down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to throw stones and a time to gather stones, a time to embrace and a time to avoid embracing, a time to search and a time to count as lost, a time to keep and a time to throw away, a time to tear and a time to sow, a time to be silent and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time for war and a time for peace. He has made everything appropriate in his time. He has also put eternity in their hearts." I really like this illustration with the whole plant theme for this verse, because not only does it say that there's a time to plant and a time to uproot, but just the fact that plants go through seasons. I know I have some plants that are for the fall, that in the fall time they're super pretty and fluorescent and they're blooming really nicely and colorful, and once their season is up they look like they're dead. But then, you set them aside and just wait for their next season to come back, and when the next fall comes and they miraculously just come back, colorful and full of life, like if nothing ever happened. And so I believe that's how our life is sometimes, that we are like plants. We have different seasons and every season looks different, but what is constant is God. God is walking with us in every season of our life. I know seasons vary. Some seasons are very difficult in our lives, and then there's some where, you know, it's our highlight of our lives. I have experienced both, and the important thing is to really grow in that season and ask God what he wants us to learn in that time, and pray that he just gives us understanding and clarity to walk away from that season victoriously and have growth because of that season. So I hope that makes sense for you as to what I'm trying to say in regards to this illustration. In the pretty much the verse really breaks it down pretty easily to understand. So basically, all I did is I committed to sticking those other two elements down, and then I took an acrylic block and used that as my guide to make lines and a small little not looking bow at the top. And then I did use some individual stamp typewriter font type from Michaels. They're like $1 at their dollar bin section. They come in a blue box, and what I ended up stamping is for everything there is a. And then for the season portion, I'm using these thickers, these black thickers, and then I committed to sticking them down on this section of the Bible. And then at the bottom of that, I have ample space to do my prayer and my journaling for this verse. And so basically all I wrote was, Lord, I thank you for the season we are at as a family. Although the season isn't a favorable one, I know there's a reason for it. Lord, I ask for guidance on how to best understand this season and how to move on and move on victoriously. You make all things good in your time. That is it for this entry. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you liked it and got inspired. Please give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed watching. And if you're not already subscribed, please click the subscribe button down below so you can get notified that I have uploaded a new video. I hope to catch you again on the next video. Bye-bye.